Kia ora and welcome to the Can podcast. I'm the host, Warwick Slow, and today's guest is April Hastilow from Opes Mortgages. April has been consistently one of the top advisors in New Zealand, and in this episode we dive into how she got there, where she's going next, as well as some insights into the marketing machine that is Opes Mortgages. Now, April is really articulate, she's funny, very authentic in the information she gives across, so I think you'll really enjoy this episode. And if you're watching this over YouTube, you can catch us on Spotify or Apple Podcasts as well. Don't forget to log this in your CPD register, and if you enjoy it, please give us a positive review or a follow or a subscribe. It really goes a long way to helping us invest further into the podcast. But enough talk, let's jump into it. So stoked that you came and joined us on the podcast today. I think of all of our guests, you're probably arguably one of the most qualified, having studied broadcasting back in the day, and now you've made the transition to financial services. What skills do you think you've taken from your previous career into this new one?
I would say there's a couple of key ones, one from radio and one from when I was in television, which I actually don't know if you know about that side either.
I see you're still a camera operator, or you have been up until about 2017?
Yeah. So I guess from the radio side of things, it's just all about communication. And when you are selling radio advertising, you're selling 30 seconds of air that you can't track. And then you are telling someone that it's having an impact and bringing customers in. So that piece just really helps you explain concepts and grow the relationships and things like that. And for the television side, I was working for, say, Sky or Trackside, and you have a camera you've got so many inputs coming in. So you've got the director in your headset and you've got the CCU ops, so they're telling you about colours and what you're needing to do, and you've got the commentator, you've got the director, then you're filming, and then you're trying to work on your zoom and your focus and your panning, and things are happening, and you're trying to track a rugby ball, or you're trying to track an expression on somebody's face across a field or something like that. And so with that many inputs coming in, you have to be able to really quickly work through everything and be able to do an output. And you also can't stuff it up because you can't get them to do it again. So I think that helps in this role where you've got phone calls happening and text messages and emails and settlements and things happening and going on, to be able to, I guess, deal with all of that, organize it and put it into an output.
I think one skill that I'd also taken away from it, having done a lot of live broadcasting, is that getting over that fear of making a mistake. Because so often when you're like on the phone, you're talking to a customer, you know, sometimes you can say something, you're like, oh, you're thinking about it, you can trip yourself up. But having done the radio side, I'm now like just less scared of making mistakes. I know it's human, you know?
It's human and it happens. And in broadcasting, you get humbled pretty quickly when you've got a director screaming down the headset at you like, can do. I'm like, yep, that was me.
Oh, I've had some monumental stuff ups. I remember when, big network station, and did my first live break with them. I was like, that went so well. And I went into the show log. You can listen back to it pretty much straight away. And song finishes, dead air. I'm like, what is going on? Dead air, dead air, dead air. Next song plays like 30 seconds later. It's like, what the hell? And I'd been in Studio B and I'd forgotten to change the live from Studio A to Studio B. So yeah, humbled real quick.
Yeah. It's a good training ground. And then we both ended up here.
And here we go. I wonder why. I wonder what is it about financial services that resonated with us? Or maybe you, because you're the guest.
I think mine was always helping people and to help the most amount of people possible. There's a point where, in radio or broadcasting, maybe you're not doing that so much. My family's still in it. So my brother's head director for Stuff now after News Hub. So he's still in the broadcasting side of things and helping tell stories and get news out. But for my side, I don't know if this is the question that you're going into, but here we are. I built my first home when I was 23, and I just made every mistake under the sun. So the contract had big cost escalations. It took 14 months. The foundations blew out. They changed it. It was post-earthquake. It was really stressful. And the advisor that we were working with at the time, I think, just thought, if you're building a house, you kind of know what you're doing. Absolutely did not. I didn't even know what LVR meant. And so when a job came up at ANZ for a mobile mortgage manager, I applied for it. And I think, despite the fact I didn't know what LVR meant, they decided that they could teach me finance more easily than they could teach somebody how to want to like and help people.
And from there, being a Triple M, I imagine you learn a lot of the skills that you now use on the daily basis today. But from there, you moved to Become Wealth, and you were eventually head of lending there before moving to Opes. Mm-hmm. Now, I found a video and it was Opes doing one of their OP Awards in 2022, and they picked their top financial advisors, and you were on that list. Was that, excuse the pun, but was that a catalyst for you making the move, or like what was the transition like moving from one company to another?
So they actually had to take me off the awards list once I joined because they don't promote their own internal. They think it's unfair. So it was the easiest way to actually get myself off the list. But I'd known Andrew for years. I really respected him back when he was an advisor. Always the hardest working person in the room. And he'd been after me for years to come across. He said it was a humbling HR exercise so that took a couple of years, but I decided that I wanted to see a different business because with Become, I'd come out of being a year and a half or 2 years as a mortgage advisor, and I stopped working directly for the bank just at the time with policies and processes and the way that things were. I couldn't hand on heart say that I was doing the best thing for clients anymore just by putting them in that one box. So moved out and into Become under Richard Clark, who's a phenomenal advisor as well. Learned that, but then because I'd been there for a while and was senior mortgage advisor and then went up to head of lending and had the team underneath me and some of the other parts of the business, I was aware that there was probably a natural bias to thinking that the way that I did things was the only way or the completely correct way. So I wanted to go into another business that was phenomenal and really high performing with like Peter Norris in there and see how they did things, how their marketing machine worked and how they were writing such massive numbers and what their processes were so that I could learn in there and hopefully help.
You look at that marketing machine and there's no other way to describe it because every week it's not just, the odd blog article. We're talking 20 plus pieces of content a week right across the board from, doing the Property Academy podcast. They've got The Deal, which is like a live recorded show. There's just so much content that's being created. And I can see you've been involved in a couple of them. Like, is there much of an emphasis for advisors within Opes to start creating content? Is that something that's coached, or do you kind of put your hand up and say, hey, I want to be a part of this?
It's a bit of both, really. I mean, one of the things with Opes is it's one of the most humbling businesses I've ever worked in because, you can be head of lending and doing the numbers and whatever and think you're pretty cool and then come into this and be like, wow, like the numbers that Pete writes and still has time to do things like content, or how Ed McKnight works and in the media and how their brains work. And I don't think Andrew sleeps. And then there's all the behind the scenes people, like they're so annoyingly talented with what they do. And they're so good at, allowing, to wander in and be like, I've got this idea for a podcast. Or there's this, or here's this article, or, at the moment, monthly, I'll look at what the behind the scenes rate discounts are. And obviously we sensitize it so we don't get in trouble with the banks, but we'll have that available to people, or the test rates, things like that, just helping demystify and make things a lot more accessible to people, which again, fits in with the helping more people make better financial decisions. So if you want to be involved, absolutely. And if it's that you want to have a bit more of a backseat to that marketing side and do more just of the advising, really comfortable with that as well.
I notice a relatively new advisor with you. He's been in the industry for a while, but he's I've noticed on LinkedIn as well, he's posting a lot of thought leader type articles or just opinion pieces. And I was like, I wonder if that's something that they push, because constantly all the time you have your customers asking you questions. And it's sort of a twofold approach. If they ask the question, you can give them like a resource. You're saving time, but you're also, enabling the customer to say, okay, educate yourself. And, I've seen the impact that Opes has had firsthand, where I had a friend who came to me and goes, hey, I'm going to buy an investment property in Christchurch. And I was like, well, why? And he was like, I've been listening to this great podcast. I think it's a great opportunity. And I looked into it and I was like, oh my goodness, this is Opes. They're crushing it. And the one that really caught me by surprise one day was when on the news they go, we're going to speak to an economist, Ed McKnight, speaking on the property market. I was like, the fingers are across so many different pies. It's just, it's like, I don't know how you had that. Well, I can see how, but it's just amazing to see how you've had that type of outreach into the New Zealand market.
Yeah, it's a phenomenal amount of work from them over the years, just building that 1% at a time, using They Ask You Answer as a bit of a Bible for the marketing team. But they're at the moment, One Roof, Herald stuff, I would say not a week would go by where an article from Ed or Andrew doesn't appear.
And the book that Marcus Sheridan created, They Ask You Answer, I understand that you've had him come and speak to the team. How was that for an exercise? And did you get some value from it?
Yeah, it was phenomenal. I mean, it's a really good reminder to the team why so much effort goes into that side of things. And sometimes, it's a little controversial. They'll say, why Opes isn't right for you, or, is Wellington munted, things like that. But also sometimes the keywords, again, they'll help with search results. They help people make better decisions. So when they're doing their purchasing and they go and they investigate things in advance, most of the time when people are walking in, they've already made up most of their mind. They don't stumble upon people, upon us, usually just willy-nilly. Like, I know we've got a webinar coming up, and I think we're over 5,000 people who have gone in and actually registered for it. Like, that's madness at the moment when they're telling us that the property market is quiet. And it's things like They Ask You Answer and tracking everything religiously. Like, what are the keywords that are getting people to pull through? What are people asking? What are the questions? Yeah, that marketing beast is amazing.
It's phenomenal watching it. And for those who don't know, like, They Ask You Answer is it's a marketing book which is based around like inbound marketing strategies. So building trust with your customers. What are the questions people have, putting on the website, and sometimes it can be almost bigging up other competitors to build that trust. Like, I guarantee if you search in Google right now, top mortgage broker NZ, the top result will be an article on Opes bigging up other people in the industry. You have your Squirrels and those other large organizations which are right up there. It's incredible because if you're the end consumer, you're looking at it and going, why is this company promoting their competitors? But it seems to work.
Yeah, it's just good, really good transparency, and it's also really helpful for us. I mean, we all know how long you can spend explaining a revolving credit facility to somebody. So it's helpful that you've got an article if somebody likes reading, and then you have a video if it's that you prefer, Ed, or you've got the graphics or things that just help people to absorb the knowledge a little bit more in their own time too.
And people are consuming content in so many different ways. I'm a big reader. I like to really dive in deep, but then also, I do know there's a lot of people out there that want that kind of snackable content through TikToks. Like, who is Ed driving it, or like what's the? Yeah. Is there a roadmap, or it just seems producing so much content? Is it just got this thought, out it goes, or is it? I imagine there's like a structured process that it goes through.
Ed is the mastermind behind that marketing side of the business, but there's the different divisions. So there is the magazine division with Informed Investor, and then you also have the podcast. So they've got people who help work on that, and then you also have people who are writing the articles, and so they'll sometimes come to us. So Pete and I do a lot of fact checking or helping with that, and then Ed is still massively with the podcast, and then also the webinars as well. I think one of the biggest keys to it is Ed and Andrew are exactly like they seem. So what they are on the podcast, what they are on the webinars, like that personality is exactly what you get. You will have Friday afternoon drinks and it's the hot sauce wheel or, things like that. So and I'm very aware that this entire podcast appears to be turning into a love letter from me to Opes, but they are, what they do is incredible.
Tell me more about this hot sauce wheel.
All I can say is I owe my life to one of the other financial advisors who is aware that I find mayonnaise spicy. And of course I rolled a 9, and he did whatever Carolina Reaper or whatever was worse than that. And then his girlfriend told me that he'd spent the entire night in the bathroom. So
grim.
Yeah, very grim.
Took the bullet.
Yeah, hot sauce Friday afternoon is one that I might be absent for next time, because I think I've used my one favor.
How often is this?
The hot sauce or the Friday afternoon drinks?
The hot sauce roulette wheel.
It's not the first time it's come out, but I'm not entirely sure it's not the last time now.
Because I've got have you ever seen that YouTube channel Hot Ones?
Yeah.
So I've got Da Bomb, which is like notoriously the worst one. It tastes terrible and it's super hot. MHQs and other businesses with us, I went to their Friday, like they had a work seminar, and at the end of it I brought Da Bomb along and did like a bit of a Hot Ones type thing with them. I'm sure we could tee one up for you as well.
I think I'm going to decline, because me crying and just sobbing is something I try and keep just, to like hey, I think a settlement's going to, just like.
Yeah, in the car before work.
Yeah, every morning, just listening to Dido as the rain comes down the window. But if you want, we've got the wheel next time. If you really want to like lift the game on it. Yeah. I'll see if I can borrow it from Andy. Oh, you'll come and you can do the 9 for me.
I'll come. I'll bring the hot sauce. But yeah, it's a real humbling experience. We did the Hot Ones challenge here for Farron's birthday a few years ago. I got all the sauces and we got chicken nuggets for everybody. We did a little like Hot Ones challenge where I interviewed him and pulled up old embarrassing Instagram posts. And the determination you see from different people in the team, it's like a good reflection of how they are in the office. They're like, oh, I'm going to finish this. But then others are like, oh, no, not for me.
No, I've got a sense of self-preservation. It's just everyone's fun when you're doing things like this. You want to imagine if you were not from Earth and you were watching the people and being like, what are they even doing? Like, what is the... Human beings do weird things.
I've had that very experience when my partner and I, we did a 6-month trip to Central South America, and they always have hot sauces on the table. And we started doing this, like, what are the odds? So every day we'd have like a, what are the odds you have that? And we did this sort of stay in a family's home in Guatemala for a week. You learn Spanish. And there was one night where they brought out this huge meal, and with it was this like little tiny red, looked like it would wreck your stuff, chili. And my partner lost what are the odds? And it's the first one I got her for in a while. And I was like, yeah, I was like so happy and pumped. She eats this chili and she's like sweating and like eyes are watering. I'm laughing. And you can see this host family are like, is she okay?
Yeah. Is this the time we call the ambulance?
Why?
Why, Taurus? Why? Yeah. No, we like to do strange things. But if you want to come join the Opes Hot Sauce Challenge next time, I'll let Andrew know and you can tag in for me.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, I can't promise a good performance for myself, but I'll give it a good nudge. Now, you've been ubiquitous on that top advisor charts for years, even before you joined Opes. What do you think it takes to get up and get those numbers consistent?
I think there's a lot of different ways that you can do it. I try and have my approach always be, would I do this lending for a family member? And so a lot of my self-generated referrals and the business that repeats is because I think that clients understand that and can feel that. And so, just because, the person that I'm dealing with isn't my brother, or they are not my mother or my sister or anything like that, it doesn't mean that they're not somebody's. And that they're not scared and that this isn't a really massive deal for them. So it might be, the 8th client I've seen that day, but it's their first time maybe seeing a mortgage advisor or their first investment property, and it's so important to them. So I think it's always keeping front of mind that ethos, and which also leads through to, do what's right, even if it's hard. So even if it is that you're split banking or doing another application, even when you had everything, ready to go with one bank, but something's suddenly better, or there's a slightly harder way to do something, but it's going to be right for the client, then I think it's just always doing that when you can. So that it means that you're taking really good care of them. New Zealand's a small village. They talk about that to other people. So that helps a whole lot with the referrals. And then in terms of the organization that it takes to be writing the sort of numbers that roll around this, it's just being really diligent and boringly so. The times that I know things are going to go wrong, my activities aren't updated. The dashboard is not grey, and I haven't been, following up on that paperworky side of things maybe so much, or there's too much that's in my head and not on paper. So it's just being really disciplined and having incredibly understanding friends and family when you work a lot, because I'm not going to sit here and pretend that the hours that I'm working to be able to do this are not, and always have been.
You've been smashing it.
They're pretty significant. There may or may not be a photo of me on my wedding day getting hair and makeup done on the phone to a lawyer about settlement. Yeah.
I guess I think back to my own wedding and that morning, and the groom, you're not doing much. You're sitting around, you're having a few drinks, a few laughs. That morning's so full on for you already, but throwing in work and speaking to lawyers, solicitors, it's just wild. Did the deal go ahead? The
deal did go ahead. Good. And, it might be, a special day for you, but it's also a special day for the client. And I've always, for some reason, got this picture in my head on settlement of a family. They always have a golden retriever. They're standing outside this house. They've already out of their house. They've got a golden retriever. Even the dog is crying. Even my imagination will give me golden retriever tears because I've done something wrong, or they can't move into their house in that stress. And it's just unacceptable to me to ever put anyone in that position. So I think that's sometimes why you do the hours.
Would you describe yourself as an extreme empath?
Yes.
It seems like that. I mean, even imagining a golden retriever crying, I think that could make anybody, you don't want to do a good job. You don't want to make a dog cry.
No. I mean, what sort of person would do that? Not me.
Not me. I still feel guilty sometimes when I cut my dog's claws and she sulks and she knows it's going to happen too. She sees the clippers and she just comes and puts her head into me. And even then I'm like, I got to do this. I'm not going to not cut your nails, but I feel so bad.
Yeah, I feel like the worst human in the world. But yeah, so.
And you're helping out your brother at the moment up in Auckland by doing some babysitting as well. So it's part of your, your personality. You really want to make a difference, want to help people, want to be present. So it's reflects well, and customers resonate.
Oh, thank you.
What's next for you?
I think we're really building an Opes at the moment. And so what we're looking to do is grow the team up, because the numbers that we've got coming through at the moment are phenomenal in terms of leads into the business, people wanting to do things. Obviously, the refinance market is hot at the moment. So it really is a matter of just really getting the systems and the processes up and going. We've already got the leads, and then building just a team of people who really want to help.
Having a big team around you it's easy to hire, but it's hard to hire the right people. What was the hiring process for you? You kind of told me already. They wanted you into the business already, but like when you bring somebody in, is there like a criteria that you look for, or like what is the perfect Opes employee look like?
To keep banging on about it is somebody that genuinely cares about customer first and putting their outcomes above, your own. And so we're looking for people. Actually at the moment, who we're looking for is, we're happy for 9 to 5. We don't expect evenings and weekends. We don't expect hunters, but what we expect is a really good job with high compliance. We want somebody to be able to go away. I use the hit by a bus analogy maybe a little bit too much in the business for them to be comfortable, because I keep wandering around outside the office on my phone in front of the tram, and they're like, if you could, a little more situational awareness when you're trotting around on the phone would be great. But it is someone who just wants to help people, do good compliance, and also just be a good part of the team. Like, the team it's hilarious, and there's group chats and getting things done and advice and hot wings challenges, or we do our own quiz nights every 2 weeks. We have team drinks where the different divisions organise the drinks. We did a children's birthday the other day, so there was fairy bread and Cheerios and
goodness,
everything like that. So it's a pretty great place to work, and at the moment it's also, I think, a really good place for people coming up and into the industry to learn from, because you've got Peter Norris, who's writing 180 mil, something ridiculous that, and been through the bank, so he's just a wealth of knowledge, especially on the non-bank business. You've got me, who'll chat the ear off anyone who wants to come in and learn. And then you've got great advisors like, Anna, Gary coming through. We've got Jason in the team, and then we've got some juniors who are coming in. And so I know someone on our teams, he's just sent his first application away.
Big moment.
And of course it was a apartment that has, it was the car park on a different title, and it's at 90% and when's it getting built? Like, it was a hard one with commissions and things. So I see things like that, and I'm really grateful for the team and the knowledge that we've got around, because it scares me sometimes when you think of how you can have an advisor come into the industry, no idea what they're doing, and they're sitting in front of a client who's trusting that they do. Is probably the biggest thing. Not the question you asked me. I'm tangenting massively.
No,
that's
the purpose of a long form podcast. We can tangent all you like.
I think one of the most surprising things and saddest things about the role, because I've seen it where it gets abused or just done really badly, not maybe deliberately, but people trust us so much in what we say. You really can make somebody's financial future. I want people working with me to be the best financial decision that they make. I want me coming into Khan to be one of the best financial things that happens through there with banks and things like that. And same for clients, same for the businesses that I work with. But we can also be the worst financial thing that happens to someone, and people might not even realize that it was the advisor that made the error. And I know as an industry, we're very aware that we can get pulled up in front of the FMA, we can end up on the front page of stuff, and we don't have the protection of being behind a bank. But also I think there's a lot of the time where really bad stuff happens and maybe it doesn't come out because the client isn't even aware that the advice that they've been given is poor, or the person didn't reach out for help, they didn't know what they were doing, they were maybe in it a little bit more for the money or something like that. So I think that's been the most shocking thing in the industry sometimes, is seeing the behaviours that gets away and people don't even realise.
I would almost guarantee any financial advisor listening to this story would have their own version of a story where they've gone, I've just got an application from another advisor that's just like not up to standard.
Yeah.
And without them perhaps rectifying the situation or, helping the client out. There could be some people out there who have, been really poorly informed, which, that's the purpose of the new legislation to improve trust and the quality in the industry. But yeah, there is that human error element to it, which is kind of scary, but it's also what makes this industry really great. You can get some fantastic advice, which can give people great outcomes.
Yeah.
Now you have, in this part of your career, I can tell you're still very much in that growth, bring it in, want to be the best, want to keep working, hustling hard. But you often notice that advisors get to this point where they want to give back. And I can see in your trajectory, you've also done that part early. You've done the podcasts like through Opes. You've also been involved in a charity event where you rode a scooter over the Southern Alps.
Oh, the scooter safari.
Yeah. Tell me more about that.
All right. So the scooter safari is just, and I know we're not supposed to, but it is batshit on the scooter safari. So it's the Cancer Society's single biggest fundraiser that they do every year. So this year, I think we're over 385,000 that was raised in one day.
Wow.
And you get this fleet of 50cc scooters, mopeds, things like that. And you ride from Christchurch through to Hokitika in one day. And you're usually dressed up and it's like sleet, snow, rain. It's in the middle of winter. And the whole thing around it is because there was an Air New Zealand engineer who was diagnosed with bowel cancer. And because he had a sore butt, his friends decided that they would too. And so they went on this ride with him, just the 5 of them one year. And it grew from there. And so now I would have done it. I've been doing it since I was 16. So it's, I don't know if it's a long time now. And it happens every 2 years. And I think, with cancer, everybody knows somebody who's been impacted by it. So this year we were riding for my cousin Sophia, and she had just passed away at the age of 23 from bowel cancer. And so it's a way of remembering her. She would have found that a hoot. And also a way to raise money for a society that does so much good work with helping with accommodation and research and everything that they do to support. So it's a small way that we can do it, but inevitably you are cold and it is scary. So my motorbike is a little Suzuki gag bike that they bought 7 of them in for Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs for the Russian ballet in 1987. So it's older than I am. And they rode them around on stage. And so I've still got one of them. It's still all original paintwork. I've had it since I was 5. We got it from Ambley Arthur Burke because some people kept stealing it and they were sick of it. So we got it from then, and that's the bike I ride, and it's every year it gets more painful. And every year, the tires are about this, standing. Comically small. Have I ever showed you a photo of it?
I saw some online, but I'd love to see another one. By the way, you held your hands up, for those of you who aren't watching, probably about the size of like a CD. Would it be a little bit bigger than that?
A little bit bigger than a CD, but the seat of it, from standing, I can rest my foot on the motorcycle seat. And that's the bike you ride down the Otero Gorge.
It's like that scene in Dumber and Dumber, where they there's a deep cut for those of you like 90s comedy films, Jim Carrey. But he rides that little moped into the mountains. I used to have a moped, a little Yamaha jog for years, going through Wellington and up the hill in snow, sleet, ice. It sounds like the kind of challenge I was built for. You
should definitely do it. It's wild just sitting there and you are surrounded by people just as nuts as you, just as passionate about what they're doing as you. And inevitably, because you're playing music, I always play Macklemore's Downtown to start with because it's just perfect for the moment. And the costumes, we were spacemen this year, and it was probably one of my better costumes because you actually could fit it over and above. Although in hindsight, was my mother stoked at our helmets that we got off Temu? Probably not.
Yeah, I imagine they'd pass all the safety regulations, everything, wouldn't they?
I'm sure that sticker that was on them meant something. I definitely had it one year at Become where management offered whatever I was fundraising to not do the ride. Because they were like, we'd be really upset if something happened to you and it's quite busy. So if we just paid you to not do it. So yeah, it's fun.
And you say, I'll take that, and then you just do it anyway. Double the amount of fundraising.
It's all for good.
Okay, so how do people contribute if they want to help towards your fundraising efforts?
So the next ride's in 2 years' time, and it's just it's Cancer Society fundraiser page. But if you look on Scooter Safari, it's on there every 2 years.
And what if somebody wants to join you on it?
then good luck to them because, obviously I'm super fast. No, they come join the team where I think we've already got our costumes planned for next time, and I've got on order some Stig helmets.
The Stig?
Yep.
Oh, from Top
Full
Gear,
team.
any of those fans? So he was the guy. Did they ever find out who he was? He was this like enigmatic guy who used to just have the fastest lap times. And
Well, have you ever seen me in the same room as him?
that's a really good point. So do you get sponsored from clients to contribute towards that? Is that
Opes are amazing. They just dropped $1,000 into the fundraiser as soon as I asked, and individuals in the team are sponsored as well. I think we're over $7,000 this year for our particular little squad. But yeah, just put it out on social media. As I said, everyone knows somebody who it's been impacted. The thing I think that surprised me this year is when everything is so tight. I mean, we watch it in our industry. The interest rates, things are tighter. People are doing it tough, and we still fundraise the most we ever had. So I think it's nice that even in moments like we are in the world, people still want to help.
Now, the office is based out of Christchurch.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think if you're based in any centre that isn't Auckland and New Zealand, I think you always have a slight disadvantage. You've got to work that little bit harder. Do you find that's the case for you, or has it been something that's helped you get to the numbers that you do?
Well, I mean, I have to pick my songs when I go to work in the morning very carefully because on a bad traffic day, I can only listen to 2. So in terms of efficiency, how long did it take? I mean, it took me this morning to get to this office an hour and 15 minutes.
Yeah.
So
you don't want to play this game with me, though, because I actually live 5 minutes from the office.
Okay, fine. For most people, my
argument terrible.
My argument is that Auckland is incredibly inefficient with traffic if you are wanting to not be on your phone and doing emails on a motorway.
Oh, yeah.
So I think Christchurch, there are disadvantages. I think those disadvantages almost went during COVID when everybody just got so used to Zoom calls. I mean, I love the compliance aspect of Zoom because you can record it, you've got transcripts, you've got all of that, but people became significantly more used to a personally impersonable way of meeting in terms of that, it's normal. You don't have to sit down in an office with someone to still feel like you connect with them, that you know them, that you've seen them, that you get the essence of them. So I think it's less important than it has been.
So you've touched on it a few times. So you've said like the efficiency of doing Zoom calls. Mm-hmm. You've also mentioned that you're religious in terms of the way you log things and track your daily tasks. What advice would you have for maybe April just joining out for how to structure your day so that you can make the most of your time?
I would say find somebody that you admire in the industry or that you feel that you would get along with and take them for a coffee and ask them. Ask them how they're doing things and what they've found. One of my favorite sayings is that a smart man learns from his mistakes, but a wise man learns from the mistakes of others. And I think in this industry, there's so much experience and things that you can learn for. So, coming into this, I know that I helped make some changes to the process within the team, and also Pete helped make some changes to the process of how I do things. Like he's a big fan of Vidyard, and that works phenomenally well.
What is that?
So it's a on-screen recording that you can do where you can have yourself in the little corner and talk to what's happening, and you can record your screen. And threefold for that, you've got the compliance aspect of it where you're recording what the client's put in, a bit of the advice why you're doing things. So that forms a compliance piece if someone were to come back to you. But it also helps if maybe someone's partner didn't manage to attend the meeting. Maybe if, like me, I speak at 20% faster than the average person. So it helps if I've gone maybe a little bit too fast without realizing they get to go back and see that recap. It helps if I get hit by a tram on my phone and then someone coming in goes, oh, this is what she was doing and why. Here's the plan over a little 5-minute piece. So something like that's really customer centric, but also really helps with a whole lot of that compliance piece. But yeah, outside of that, for advice is as boring as it is, do the small things, do the 1%ers, because if you don't, the repercussions are pretty massive.
And they all compound too. It's all those little 1%ers that, make you who you are today, and all those other successful advisors.
Yeah.
So for people who want to reach out and have a coffee with you, who might be early in their career, how do they reach out? How do they find you?
They can just find me. Probably LinkedIn is one of the easiest ones, or else just April at opes.co.nz. But happy to have a chat, and anything that I guess helps. What do they say? Man, I am just full of the analogies today. A rising tide lifts all ships. So I think we're always like one comment on a Facebook group that's not quite private away from ending up on, the front page of stuff or as an industry in disrepute. So the more that we can do together to make the industry be seen in a better light, when it sometimes feels that the media and people would love to just say that it's all awful and horrible and things like that. I think we're already fighting against that prejudice. So everything that we can do as an industry to make it better, I think is only helpful in the long term.
People love to speak up when they disagree with something, but I know there's a lot of people out there who have, their financial positions changed significantly because they've gone through a mortgage advisor, a financial advisor. But yeah, you do see negative comments online from those who have less than ideal experiences with advisors who maybe don't have the same passion that you or other advisors have. But just coming back to that point about rising tides, I know that so many advisors who have done this podcast have had other people reach out to them and go for those coffees. And I've only heard about them like years later and go, I caught up with coffee with this person. And it's just amazing seeing that type of camaraderie in the industry where I think it used to be, quite siloed and you'd sit and do your work in your one advisor office and that would be it. So loving to see it. And I really appreciate your openness and authenticity to offer that to other advisors.
Thank you.
So I think we've covered a lot. We've covered the marketing, your background, how you got into it. The only other thing I need to know, this is more self-validation, would be, do you listen back to your videos and critique how you do your meetings with clients the same way you do like old radio shows?
Yes and no. When I'm training a new advisor, it's one of the awful things that I do is I say, right, wait 2 days and then listen to the meeting back again from beginning to end, not straight after, but when you've got some perspective, you've eaten, you've slept, listen to it and then write down good things you said and write down some things that you think that you could work on next time. And once you get through the cringe of it, I think that's really helpful to be a bit less emotional about what it is that you're hearing and actually just a bit more pragmatic about what it is. In terms of vidyards and things, frankly, I don't probably have time so much to listen to. I might listen to this podcast. One of the things I learned from being on the Opes podcast is that I usually listen to podcasts on 1.25 at least. Cannot do that with the ones that I'm on because I sound like a chipmunk.
I do the same. And I did the same with you. I had it on like 1.5 speed and I was like, whoa, need to dial that back.
No, that does not work. I talk like I'm on Gilmore Girls.
It's the same reason I feel like I have had to teach myself to deliberately speak slow because I used to just rattle through stuff and like my brain would start getting to this point where I'm like, blah, 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 oh my God, and trip myself up. But listening back to shows is something that I still do today. So I always listen back to these and a lot of time go, why did I say that? Or like things I do differently for next time. And I also do it to the point where if we're listening to radio or podcasts in the car and it drives my wife like crazy, I'll like critique them. It's not because I'm like coming from this point of authority. It's just I'll do that differently. Oh,
you sit there and you listen to radio, you're like, didn't quite hit the post there.
No. But I'm always like, do that differently. Come on, come on, stop talking. Yeah.
It's one of the things though, if you're implementing something like vidyards or something like that, people are okay with a little bit of humanity shining through. So I will be doing one. And, obviously if you really stuff up or something pops up on the screen that could be a data breach, anything like that, you absolutely restart. But you know what? If the dog barks, if you have a bit of a cough, if you stuff up, you need to stop and be like, whew, then your coffee, right, here we go.
Yeah.
People are pretty forgiving. It just, I guess, lets them see a little bit more of who you are as well and makes them feel a bit more comfortable. So critique,
Absolutely.
But it doesn't have to be perfect.
That's right. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. I know you're really busy. You've gone from meeting to meeting, so we're kind of sandwiched in between. But like the time you've given us, the insights, and just like love seeing your journey in this industry. So thanks so much, April.
Thank you.